earlier this month in the UK and on Kindle, but now we are on Amazon.com, which is really exciting. You all have seen this all over social media, I'm sure, where we've been splashing it about, but there's the book with my little placement here in the background. So many of you all have already bought your copies, so thank you very much for that. And look forward to hearing your feedback. So the title of the book is Good Work: How to Build a Career That Makes a Difference in the World. So I think a lot of the people I work with are certainly motivated to try to shape positive change for our environment, our planet, and our communities. And that's really a big piece of what gets me out of bed in the morning. So many of you all on this call have been on the journey with me throughout the last 2 decades that I've been working in this space, and the last decade that I've been running Walk of Life. So I just want to start by saying thank you all, each and every one of you, for your support over the years, directly, indirectly, however you have become part of my ecosystem and my world. I really appreciate you making time today to celebrate with us. So many of you are my clients, some are my partners, some of you all are family and family friends that feel like family from home. And you really keep me motivated over the years just to keep shaping impact, as well as helping me to stay true to my own personal purpose. So Sadie, I think, is maybe the only other one on the call today that has her glass of champagne. She's my assistant and colleague here in Cambridge, because it's already 5:30 our time, so we can actually have the champagne. So cheers to everyone for being a part of this journey with me. I'd also like to just start by introducing my parents who are on, Glenn and Elsa. If you want to just wave or say a quick hi, then your video will come up. But there they are in the house where I grew up, back in Washington, D.C. We haven't seen them in a couple of years, but they're very cute on video. So thank you for all that you all have done for me. And then my boys, Austin and Max, I think they were hiding from the video, but they are hopefully on here. If they say something, there's Max. Can you say something, Max, so your video comes up?
Hi.
And Marshall, you'll be glad to see he's wearing his Arizona State University sweatshirt. There you go. Or as we call them here, his hoodie. So yeah. Where's your brother, Max? He's not coming?
He's gone to go get the charger, but he'll be back now.
Okay. Well, we'll let him have his moment later. So just wanted to thank my family, both my boys and my parents, for being my champions and my rocks over many, many years. And I could not have done this rather big project of writing a book without their support and them championing it. So thank you very much. So some of you all don't know me, as well as others. And so I just thought I'd share a little bit about my mission in life. Kind of my mantra is to get the right people into the right roles so that they can help to shape their own careers and make a difference through really adhering to and delivering on what we call the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And I really connect people to their own personal purpose so that they can live into their own potential. I've taken about 20 years now of my sustainability career or corporate responsibility background that I did as a practitioner, and I merged that with being a recruiter, which I've been doing since my first job out of undergrad, and developed an online course that breaks down the job seeker process into tangible steps, tools, and templates. And so from that content that I built my online course from, I've now repurposed it into the book. So a lot of the content is similar, not the same, but very similar, and gives you a taste for my online course program. And then that also comes with a coaching program where I work one-on-one to help individuals to achieve those personal goals of purpose and impact. So I'd also like to say thank you to my right arm and colleague who doesn't live far from me, but we haven't seen each other in a while with COVID, Sadie Finch, who is literally the only reason I'm still standing after these last few very busy and exciting years that she's been working with Walk of Life. She will be taking anything you all need through the chat today. So if anybody has questions or issues or wants to communicate or share anything with the group, please just go crazy on the chat. We love to connect people. We love to have people interacting and engaging. So we won't take it personally if you're not listening and you are just chatting with each other through that. We love that. So keep your eye also on the chat for some logistics and links that Sadie's going to be putting in there for us to help communicate a bit today. So Sadie, do you want to say just wave or say a quick hi so everybody can see you? Thank you for all you do for us.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we've also got a few of the clients that I've worked with over the years that are in the book on the call today. I know we've got Rachel Gordon and Scott Miller and Victoria Morehouse and Mario Gonzalez, just to name a few. I had about 10 that we got to feature in case studies in the book, so their names are in the front, which is very exciting for them, and really appreciated by me to get to tell real client stories and change maker stories in the book to bring it to life. So today I'm very honored to have Joel Mackauer with us to interview me. He is a journalist, also a published author, an entrepreneur, a global speaker, and a leader in sustainable business and the clean economy. And more than 20 years ago, as a pioneer in this space, Joel co-founded GreenBiz Group, where he is currently the chairman and executive editor. And sorry, I'm just going to record. I just realized, Sadie, we forgot to record. And GreenBiz Group is a media and events company that advances the opportunities at the intersection of business, technology, and sustainability. We were talking about it earlier as everyone was logging in. They do they do 6 annual conferences now, but one in Phoenix, Arizona that many of us attend every February to enjoy the part of the world and in that beautiful time of year. And I've been writing for GreenBiz since 2013 now. A column that was called Dear Shannon, where I shared a lot of my career tips and tricks similar to some of the content in the book. And then more recently, I've been writing a column for them called Purpose and People that featured change leaders day in the life. So you could kind of see what they actually do day in and day out and some of their real world challenges. So Sadie will put those into the chat. If you're interested, you can get some more tips from me through some of those columns. So before we dive into the interview, I'd love to launch a poll to see where you are where you and the audience are in terms of your own career journey. And Sadie's going to launch that now, so it should pop up. And while she's doing that and you're answering, I think what I'll do is just tell you a little bit the state of the play for our session together today. So we'll spend about 20 minutes on the interview and then open it up to about 20 minutes of Q&A. So make sure you stay on until the end if you can, because we'll be giving away 3 signed copies of the book. And is the poll working? Can anyone shake their heads yes? If it is, okay, great, thank you. Trying not to pay attention to the screen. So let's turn it over to Joel now to introduce himself. Joel, feel free to correct anything I said or add any insights about your world and your purpose and your mission, and we'll get kicked off on the interview.
Well, thank you, Shannon, and hello, everybody. It's great to meet you all virtually. I feel a little bit like I've come to a giant family birthday or celebration that where I didn't know anybody, but it's great that so many of you showed up today to support Shannon and celebrate the launch of this book. I mean, writing a book, and I've written a few, is a humongous task. You don't do it for the money. You do it for the love of writing and the message that you have to share, and for the credential. There is an old saying that a book is sort of a 2-pound business card that you now can. Well, some of you are asking, what's a business card? We don't seem to use those much anymore because we don't actually get to hand anything to anybody. But you get the point. this is such an important topic. Those of us in sustainability, and I'm now 30 years in the field, are constantly getting pinged by students, undergrad, graduate, post-grad, early career folks, mid-career professionals, even late stage people who in their 50s or even 60s are ready to do maybe have one more act. And for whatever reason, they've discovered sustainability and they want to get into sustainability, whatever that means. And they don't usually know what it means. And so many of us spend quite a bit of time talking one-on-one or in small groups sometimes with them about what does it mean to get into sustainability? What actual jobs are they? And so it's really terrific that Shannon has laid a lot of this out for the world to see, because selfishly, it's probably going to save a lot of time for me. I'll say, well, there's a book you should read. And then if you have questions, you can come back to me, or better yet, go to Shannon. No. And so yeah, I guess, Shannon, first of all, again, congratulations. And I guess I'd like to ask you why you decided to do another book or do a book. What made you see this as a book? Given all that you've been doing this for a long time, why this book and why now?
Good question. Yeah, well, it was why 6 years ago. So it took me probably 6 years to get this thing fully baked. When I started my business, my coaching business 10 years ago, I really just wanted to reach as many people as I could to help, as you're saying, Joel, help others get into this field so we can all make a collective difference and really try to shape this scalable change that is so needed. And so when I launched my coaching business, I built kind of a program of tools to support it and started doing that just in a one-to-one coaching setting. And then in 2017, I decided to turn that into an online course so that I could reach more people that maybe couldn't afford to do one-on-one coaching. So that's a self-study program that people can do without engaging with me, or they can choose to do it and engage with me as a coach as well. And so the book was always in the back of my mind that I wanted something that could reach many, many more people at a lower price point, and that I could still share my knowledge and tips and insights and really just scale this sharing of the knowledge and tools that I feel have really helped the more than 1,000 clients I've worked with over the years.
So what is good work? What does it mean to have good work in the context of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, it's a title that my publisher came up with, which I ended up really liking. We went back and forth on the cover of the book, but I liked the title out of the gate. And I think what it means is really being able to find a sweet spot intersection in one's life where you're doing work where you are feeling that you're living into your potential in terms of your own skill set, your own ability to, have an impact, make a difference, while aligning that with your purpose. So again, a sense of a wider life purpose that, as many of us know who've studied purpose, that's really what keeps us happy and gets us out of bed in the morning. And so aligning that kind of personal potential with a wider life purpose, and doing that while you can also make some money. So you need to still be able to pay the bills and have, a career and a job that pays you a salary. So in the impact sector, as you know, Joel, we talk about the triple bottom line: financial, environmental, and social impact. And I look at that similarly for the individual about what is good work for you as an individual. It's where you can make a living, realize your purpose, and really be able to exploit your own potential.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people who want to get into sustainability, to keep using that term because it's appropriately vague, and also I think flows into what your book is about. Not everybody wants a career. In fact, I think you can sort of look at some people who want a job, a good job, per your definition. Some people want a good career, and for some people it's a calling. and this is what I was born to do, and I almost don't care what I do in the field. I mean, I do, but I really just want to be here because I think I want to be part of a solution. And so I guess, is there room for, how do those different sort of three archetypes sort of fit in: the job, the career, and the calling? Are there opportunities for everybody?
Love that question. Love that question, because I think many of us, I'd say the majority of us, sell out, and we sell out for the job, meaning we've got to make a living, and that's what we lead with. We've got to pay the bills, we've got to raise the family, we've got to pay the mortgage, we want to have a nice car, and many of us lead with that. And those are the people that I come in contact with or come to me for help, because they end up not being as happy. And so I'm very driven by helping people find that flow or sweet spot where you can have all three: the career, the job, and the life purpose calling, because I know you can. I've done it for myself. I've created it myself. Right before I started Walk of Life 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago now, I was in a miserable job in a big management consultancy, and absolutely miserable, and didn't know what I was going to do next. But I was making the big money, and I was on the track, and it was a great post MBA job, and I was working in sustainability. So I was still in the space where I felt it was doing good, but it was not the right culture. It was not the calling, and it was not a career path, because it was an up or out culture that I wanted. And so, I think it takes bravery, and it takes a lot of self discovery to really understand where is that intersection between the calling, the career, and the job. And I think there's something else within that I've just mentioned, which is culture. And how do you find that culture or community in which you can really thrive in all three of those?
Yeah, I think that community part's really interesting and underplayed, I think, in the sense that, those of us who I think have gone far have created our own communities, and whether it's 5 people or 500 people or whatever it is. And I think that's something people don't necessarily think about. One of the other things that I think is interesting is that people want a sustainability job or a corporate social responsibility job, but I think the most interesting things aren't, in the field, are maybe paradoxically aren't in the sustainability or CSR department. I'll tell you a quick story. I was the last year at Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, that you could get a BA in journalism. They abolished the undergrad program after me, not because of me, but after me. And the rationale was, if you want to be a journalist, great, you can take writing courses, absolutely, but go learn something. Learn economics, learn French, learn international relations, learn business or French or something. And then if you still wanted, you can get a Master of Journalism later on, but go. And I think the same is true in sustainability. People want a sustainability job, but I always tell them, well, go learn accounting or supply chain or business administration or any number of other things. How do you talk about that in terms of people who really want a sustainability job that says sustainability in some fashion in the title, but that the opportunities are relatively few and far between? And how do you help them understand that there is this whole world of other opportunities?
Yeah, great question, Joel. Sorry they dissolved that program though, because I still think we should be getting bachelors in journalism, because we need better journalists out there, right?
No, you get a master's, you just can't get a BA. So you can
get a BA. Okay.
Yeah, you can't get a BA. Yeah.
But I think your point, being that you can get the experience. I mean, we can get the experience of sustainability, just like you can get the experience of journalism without calling yourself a sustainability analyst or manager or a journalist, right? So from a sustainability perspective, what I always say is, this is not a straight line. So you're not going to have a career like an accountant or a lawyer or a teacher where there's a clear career path. And so it really requires an ability to be very creative about where is the intersection again of your skill set and what you enjoy doing, sort of the tasks you love doing, which is the skills, with the issues that you're passionate about. And sometimes what I'll unpack with people is that actually it might not also be the day job. It might be that I need to do this as a board member. I need to do this as a volunteer. I need to do this, teaching in an academic setting, but that my day job needs to be the accountant and I can do sustainability elsewhere, or as a citizen or as an advocate, or, whatever. There's so many different ways to give back and to make a difference. So the question really is, does it need to be your day job for you to feel that you're fulfilling that sense of purpose and contribution and giving back? And if it does the word sustainability even need to be in the title? Because ultimately what we've been working on, as you know, Joel, over 20 years in this space with me, is trying to what we call embed sustainability into business or into core operations, meaning it's not a separate thing that people do as an add-on, but rather everyone within the organization is thinking about how can I do this more sustainably, better for the environment, better for our communities, in whatever your role is, whether it's supply chain operations, finance, whatever. And I think that we're seeing a shift towards that. I think Unilever still is one of the only companies in the world that, led on that embedding of it across all of their operations and all of their brands to say everybody in this organization is going to be responsible for sustainability. Yeah. So where I encourage people wanting to make a shift into sustainability is I say, well, how else can you get involved within your day job within that organization? Could you be a green champion? Could you start a volunteering program, which is actually how I started my career in corporate responsibility. It was working at Barclays Global Investors, which is now BlackRock, and we did not have a volunteering program for employees. So I started it. And I was working under the CFO at the time. I was working in accounting, funny enough. And I started that. And that's what kicked off my kind of social responsibility career. So there's lots of ways to get creative, but I think that's my biggest message is you have to be creative. And you have to also think about, does it need to be the day job that pays the bills as well? Or are there other ways for me to be a change leader and a change maker?
Well, let's just stick with the day job, because I think that's where I'm guessing most people who are going to pick up your book are thinking. And so talk a little bit about some of the other places. You mentioned finance, you mentioned law, but what is that? Connect the dots to sustainability in the two or three of those, and things that the people who are not yet into the space, who are, let's call them sustainability curious, may be surprised and say, no, I never really thought about that. That's a pretty interesting, that makes sense. What are some examples of that?
I think probably my favorite example, you could go down the traditional business tracks, right, of finance, and we can talk about that in a second, because I think there's a whole space evolving around the financial sector in this intersection with sustainability. But the one that I'm fascinated by the most is something that sits within what we now call supply chain, but people might know it more as procurement or sourcing. So within an organization, who's deciding who's going to be giving you the widgets, who's going to be supplying you the thread to make that shirt or whatever that is. I just read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight about the beginnings of Nike and how he's going to these factories in Asia. But all of those decisions along the full value chain or supply chain, and there's lots of different types of roles within that, mind you, are all playing a huge part in creating a sustainable brand or product or entity or not. So I think that's where you might not have the word sustainability in your job, but you are completely critical to really adhering to walking the talk of being a sustainable business in how you're sourcing and how you're procuring your products. So I think that's one. And then the other is finance. So that could be, again, you could say finance, but do you mean accounting? Do you mean bookkeeping? Do you mean, financial planning? There's lots of different things within finance, but we have a whole evolving space now because we've actually, the CEO of BlackRock has kind of woken up the CEOs in the world with a letter last year saying, we have proof now that investing in companies that are prioritizing sustainability and being responsible organizations are actually proving better returns on the stock market. And I think this is probably one of the biggest shifts I've seen in the 20 years of working in this space, because we now have a link to the financials that's irrefutable. And so there's a lot of people working in finance that are a little disillusioned, that are coming out now saying, I want to work in what we're calling ESG, environmental social governance, which is now kind of becoming a term within the financial sector about how do you prioritize ESG criteria to make good investments decisions. So there's a whole space around that, and impact investing, where companies like private equities are now going and saying, we're going to invest in companies, but those companies better be doing good. So there's a ripple effect, I think, that's happening now. A lot of those roles don't necessarily, again, have the word ESG or sustainability even in them. So it's showing how it's almost getting embedded across different functions within business that I think is really exciting and game changing.
Yeah. I think a challenge a lot of people have, people I talk to and a lot of my peers talk to is, well, what do I study? What certifications do I have? What do I, all kinds of questions. And I'm sure you know them well and have addressed them in the book. But one of them is, well, how do I make my resume sustainability friendly? What do I want to say? Do I want to lead with sustainability? Because not every company is looking for a sustainability person, but they might be looking for someone in supply chain or fleets or human resources or accounting that understands this stuff, but isn't necessarily, that's not going to be their job. So how do you counsel people to make their resume such that they are set up for success in the sense of finding their niche in sustainability?
Yeah, I think those are maybe more than one question in there, Joel, to be quite honest, or more than one answer in there. But
well,
generally,
take your time.
Yeah, generally my headline advice is always, well, and my program and my book shows this, is that we don't worry about the resume yet, right? So I've got 13 steps to my course, 14 chapters in the book, and I don't even start to talk to you about resume until step 8. So we spend 7 steps doing the groundwork that you need to do before you're going to know how to position yourself on paper and tell your story. And those steps include things like, what are your top 4 skills? What are you great at doing? What do you love doing? What are the issues you're passionate about? Because sustainability even now doesn't mean much, because it's such a kind of an umbrella term. Are you working in waste? Are you working in water? Do you want to shape change about carbon? Are you in renewables? Are you doing human rights? So even within sustainability, I get them to really narrow down on what are the issues that you want to put your stake in the ground around and shape. And then thirdly, it's, well, what sector or industry are you either coming from, or do you know well because your stakeholders or partners or people that are in your ecosystem of those previous roles would value your experience having been there? What sectors and industries are going to value where you're coming from? And so when we find the intersection between the skills and the issues and the sector or industry, you're then able to go out to the market and do your deep dive research into, fine, okay, well, where is that intersection, and what do those people really want from me? What are they looking to buy? And then you start to spin your personal story to translate where you've been into where you want to go based on what your audience is asking you to sell them. And that's the tricky piece. It's really, truly a marketing exercise, right? You're not going to go out and sell a Pepsi, soft drink in Chile without doing your market research on what kind of billboard is going to work in Chile, right? To sell Pepsi. Or I'm not a marketeer, but you get the gist. Same thing with the job seeking and writing your resume. We've got to know what our audience needs from us, what language they're using, because as we know, this semantics in this world of impact and sustainability is evolving every day. Even the word ESG I mentioned earlier is now almost replacing sustainability, but it's not the same thing. And it's really interesting how fast the semantics change. So that's the other piece I say is once you know who your audience is and what they're wanting you to sell them in terms of skills and knowledge around key issues, then go out and match the semantics to how they're talking about this agenda. So are they calling it sustainable business? Are they calling it sustainability? Are they calling it ESG? Whatever it is they're using for language, you're going to need to match that. So that's usually where we get focused in when we start to write the resume.
Right. I know Sadie has the results of the poll, so let's just take a second and push those out so that we can see what people said. Wow, look at that. That's pretty evenly matched here. So roughly a third of each. Is that typical,
Where are you
Shannon?
it? I'm not seeing it.
Oh.
We got a third of each, though. I know the question, so.
It's up on the screen.
30% are looking to break in, 34% are looking to, they're already in, but they're looking to move, and 35% are happy where they are.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting. This group that's on the call today is probably a pretty big mix, again, of, as you said, like a reunion of family and friends and clients and colleagues and partners. So I'm not sure that this group is that representative of what I would normally hear. I do host something called Coffee and Connect every other Thursday. And on those calls, we usually get about 50-50. So people that are looking just to network and wanting to share best practice and learn from others. And then another 50% are like, I really want a new job and I want a new career. And what are other people doing out there? So that is quite interesting that it's a third. So I like it that there's a third that are happy where they are, though. That's nice to hear.
Yeah, well, count me in that third. I want to get to questions from y'all in a minute, so feel free to start putting those in chat, or I could just keep asking Shannon questions for the next 25 minutes, but I want to hear from you all. But Shannon, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about good work, about sustainability jobs? What are some of the things that everyone assumes or doesn't even assume? What are the misconceptions?
Good question. Misconceptions. I think the biggest misconception, and this might not only apply to sustainability, but to anyone looking to make a career change, is that when you kind of have the aha moment that I'm ready to make this change and I want something different, or there's something else out there for me calling me, you think, I'm going to throw in the towel and get rid of everything I've ever done and start totally from scratch and start over. And what that means to me is to try to change everything at once. And I think that's the biggest error or mistake a lot of us make when we do a career change, is that you can change everything all at once, but you can't. You've got to make incremental changes if you're going to do a career change. So what that means is if you're going to change sector or industry, you might not also change your role, or you might not also change the area of issue expertise that you have, or you might not also then change the location where you've got to start and make a whole new network. So we can't go move to a new place, into a new sector, into a new role, and start a whole new knowledge area of issues that we're going to be experts in and hope for the best, because it doesn't work. So what I usually do is I'll break that down with people to say, which one of those elements needs to change now because you're so dissatisfied, and which ones can we change incrementally over the next 1 to 2 moves within your career. So I think that's the biggest misperception that I see, and that's pretty universal. Yeah.
One of the things that's also universal in the job is the role of in the job hunt is the role of networking. I'm fond of saying that my favorite thing about networking is that it's just one letter off from not working. But it's the key here is that people need to get out and about and connect. How best can you do that in this field?
Great question. That's why I have a chapter on that in the book, and it's why it's one of my big steps. It's also why I started Coffee and Connect, because I just realized how actually open and wanting to share the people that work in this space are. We love to share best practice. We love to help each other out. And so there's a real sense of kind of community and openness that you might not find in other spaces or sectors or careers. So A, there's an opportunity there because people are open, and B, I think that it's a people agenda that we're working in. A lot of what we do is about behavior change. It's about partnerships. It's about, connecting with our stakeholders and prioritizing their issues. It's about communicating our results. It's about gaining buy-in from our board. So pretty much anyone working in this space is going to need some really strong emotional intelligence, people, and communication skills. And all of those get practiced when we're networking. So I always say, don't think of networking as you're out there trying to get a job and sell yourself. Think of networking as making new friends, sharing knowledge, finding ways to help each other out. It's a win-win conversation. You never go into a networking conversation expecting something back without offering something forward. And so, I think that's the proof is in the pudding, in that if you network to get a job, you increase your chances by 60%. So if you know someone on the inside, you're increasing your chances by 60%. And there's 60% of jobs that aren't even published externally. So that's what we call the hidden jobs market, that you would only uncover if you were in fact networking. So it's a no-brainer that it increases your competitive advantage greatly on many different levels. But for some reason, it's a scary thought for many of us to put ourselves out there.
Well, particularly those who trend more towards introversion. But I will just second that this is a field that maybe uniquely people really, really want to share. And they're a lot less protective maybe of their job. I don't want you crowding in and trying to take away my job, but I don't even see that. But one of the realities is that people in sustainability are often swimming upstream in their companies or organizations, sometimes in their communities and families, and they often don't get asked to talk about what they do, or if they do, it's seen as sort of the superficial, like, what do you do? Well, I work in sustainability. Oh, good for you. And that's kind of a conversation stopper. But if you take the time to ask them, well, what does that mean? What do you do? How did you get the job? People really are forthcoming. And so I really love that about this space. We got a lot of great questions here, so I want to get to some of these. Did you want to say something else?
I just saw one that I wanted to make sure we get to, which is Sheena was talking about, that she works in recruitment in the social impact ecosystem. Did you see that one in the UK? Yeah. And she's mentioning social investment, major foundations, trusts, social enterprises that are also delivering on the sustainable development goals, but it's not sustainability per se. So I just want to comment on that, because I also saw another comment from Warren about our semantics and language that we use. And I think this creates a lot of confusion in the market for those of us in this space, because the way I simply explain this now, Joel, and you can tell me how you explain it, is I say, how do you create a sustainable organization that has a future, a sustainable future, that is not only raising money or making money, but also considering its impact on its planet and environment, but also and resources, but also on its communities in which it operates. And so if you think about it as sustainable organization, and then under that, you might have different pillars like social impact, or environmental social governance. You might have environmental health and safety. You might have responsible procurement. You might have environment and carbon. There's lots of different kind of subcategories that I think get lost or misunderstood because we keep using this umbrella term sustainability. But when I talk about it in my book, I'm very clear at the beginning to not use only the word sustainability, because I work in the social impact space as much as I work in the environmental. So for me, it's about developing and building sustainable organizations through the lens of the environment and the social impact that we have. So I think, just back to Sheena's point, to me, it's all part of one big bubble. They're not mutually exclusive. But I think if you're choosing a career, you're going to go down one of those tracks probably.
Well, it also depends on what you're optimizing for. So some people optimize for experience. Some people optimize for power or prestige. Some people optimize for money. Some people optimize for impact. And of course, most of us want many, or if not all of those things. Do you find that people who want to be in sustainability have some, I mean, you don't go into it for the big bucks, so let's just move that one off the screen. Although you can, make quite a nice living and you could be competitive with other non-sustainable jobs. But what are you seeing in terms of why people want to go in this space, to make a living or make a difference, or both, or what?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Every single person that ever has come to me has always said, I just want a job where I feel like I'm making a difference. I mean, that is why it got into the title of the book. I mean, that is the overarching statement I hear time and again. I think there's an understood that, yes, you also need to make a living. So I don't know if it's just that that's probably an understood when we're talking about jobs and careers, but it's very rarely a key motivator. I'd say maybe 5% of my clients over 10 years, it's been about, I need to make the big money, so I'm not going to live into my purpose because I've got, bills or family or whatever. So I think it's very much an altruistic kind of motivator.
Yeah. Another question that comes up a lot, and it's reflected in Bhushan's question, is how does, again, in setting yourself up for this kind of career, how much do you need to be a generalist and how much do you need to be a specialist?
That question kind of drives me crazy. I like the question though. Thank you, Bhushan, but it drives me crazy because it seems to change all the time. So if you read, Green Biz State of the Business, or you read Acres salary surveys, or you read some of these thought papers that go out there and research the markets, it does tend to shift back and forth depending on which year you read the report. And so I think there is no answer, because I think there's a space for both. And I think you have to decide for yourself, what do you enjoy the most? Do you want to really dig into a specific issue and become a water expert? Do you want to dig in? I've got somebody I'm working with now who's been doing farmer equity for 10 years. He really niched in to one specific issue. But his skill set is quite generalist. So again, it depends on how you're defining generalist and specialist, and it depends on what you enjoy doing and where you want to focus your energy and your impact.
Yeah. There's also a huge language issue here, that so many terms and that very few of which are well defined. You talked about ESG is now becoming synonymous with sustainability. I think that's a horrible mistake, because they're very different. And we have CSR, and we have impact and purpose, and so many other terms. It's as Warren writes here, it's hard enough to explain these to those who aren't familiar with them. What do we say so that we also, I guess, understand them ourselves, and you go into the job market with at least some reference points, and particularly understanding that some of different companies may even refer to different terms.
Yeah, and that's why I always say we got to figure out where you think you want to be going next and what interests you the most, and then really hone in on the language that they're using. So even like within the financial space, you've now got ESG, sustainable investing, responsible investing, impact investing. Yeah. We've got different ways. And again, we're saying kind of the same thing, although not exactly. So really understanding the semantics of the space that you're going to specialize in, or that you're going to focus on, is really important, because there is no one-stop answer to the semantics.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about jobs, but what about freelance jobs? Are those available, and where do you find those? And what kind of jobs might they even be? Yeah,
great question. There's a whole freelance movement happening now, as you can imagine, especially with COVID and things being more remote and people losing jobs, and really having time to think about what do they want to do with their lives and how can they create that new reality for themselves. So a lot of people are turning towards freelance. I think as recruiters, we have a little bit, we're not as fond of freelance, because it sounds like you're unemployed. So I think there's other ways of spinning that for the market. But basically, I think there's a movement around this. And I think we're going to see a huge shift in the future of work over the coming 10 years about what do we value. And maybe we're going to value freelancers more because they're more agile and they're, more affordable, or We can flex them in and out of our organizations and not get stuck with, employees that we don't think are doing the job well or whatever it is. So I think there is a whole movement for that. In terms of how do you get those jobs, I have a tool that I teach called the job proposal. So instead of doing a cover letter, you would do what's called a job proposal, where you've researched a company or a sector and said, here's a problem you have, here's how I'm going to solve it, and here's the role that I want to help you create for me. So there's a lot of this happening, which again is back to the creative point I made earlier of creating your own jobs within organizations. And again, that happens through understanding your market and networking. But this is happening a lot. I'm hearing this, I'd say 20% of the time I'm having clients that are creating roles for themselves within organizations through the job proposal and networking.
I'm cognizant of the time here, and I want to make sure that you have a couple minutes to say whatever you want to say. I'm going to give you a layup here because Anna asked, what advice do you have for staying fresh? And I'm adding to that, please begin your sentence with the word green biz. No, I'm just kidding.
Read green biz, speak at green biz, attend green biz conferences, right? Staying fresh. I love that. There's a lot of context for staying fresh, but I think I'll turn that into staying fresh in terms of being relevant. I hear that a lot. I want to make sure I stay relevant in the market. And I think staying fresh or relevant to your market, whatever market that's going to be, whether you're a freelancer, you're in-house, you're a consultant, whatever, is really about, again, bringing some sort of knowledge to the table that is needed. So in order to do that, you've got to keep your finger on the pulse about what's happening in the world, what's happening in your sector, and what are some of the trends that are happening? Where are things going to be moving to? How can you help your client, organization, employer stay ahead of the risks that might be coming down the line for them and help turn those into opportunities? So staying fresh to me is being informed, staying informed, spending time every week reading, spending time every week researching, and spending time every week writing, and then sharing that knowledge. It's about knowledge sharing and just staying ahead of the curve a little bit in terms of what's happening in the world.
And I will give a quick plug to the 7 free weekly newsletters that we publish on greenbiz.com. They cover energy and the circular economy and transportation and green finance, a number of other things. So feel free to check those out on greenbiz.com. I think, Shannon, if I'm not correct, that we're at time here, so I'm going to hand it back to you.
Great.
And you can take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Joel. Really engaging questions, none of which I had pre-prepared, as you all can probably tell. So that was, I didn't know what they were going to be. This was all, just a surprise, but it's more fun this way. So thank you for your very insightful and well thought through questions. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
So it's the moment we've all been waiting for those of you that are still on the call. I know a few people had to jump off, but 3 of you will get your own copy signed by me. And I might even put a little note in it for you. So it's not just my signature, because I will be sending it from my home here in the UK. So Sadie is going to let me know, I think, Sadie, can you just pipe in and tell me, are the 3 names that we pulled?
It's on your chat.
It's on my chat. Yeah, I'm not doing well with my multitasking here. Can you just tell me, do you want to just tell us? Just want to announce who the 3 are?
Okay, so it's Alyssa Rosen, Dean Blumetti, and Frederick Selby.
Great. All right. So those 3 lucky winners get the book for free. If you already have a copy, you can give it to a friend or someone in need of wanting to make a career change. If you could all 3 please email sadie@walkoflifecoaching.com with your address. That would be super helpful. And I will be sending those out in the coming week. And hopefully the rest of you all will have also a chance to buy a copy, maybe not for yourself, but actually for someone in need. So that's, again, why I wrote the book, is to be able to reach people that might not be able to afford coaching or the online course, but they still want the insights and the knowledge and the tips. So you can gift it to someone that you think would really be able to use it. And many of you all have asked how you can help spread the word, how you can help promote the good work that we're all doing here at Walk of Life. And I think right now, really the most help, apart from gifting a copy to someone in need, would be to hop on Amazon.com and write a review. And you just have to write a one-liner. It doesn't have to be much, but Amazon owns the world, and they own where we end up in the rankings, and supposedly that makes a big difference. So I'm not sure that it does, but that would be a great way to help us out and spread the word on social media. And just send me thoughts and feedback as you've read through it. If you do read it, always looking to improve, and maybe we'll get another version of it out in a couple of years when things get a bit dated. So just want to thank all of you so much for your energy, your support today, and your virtual hugs and your virtual toast with the champagne. And I wish you all health and well-being and happy reading, and stay well and do good work wherever you are. So thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Congratulations.
I get a sip now.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Shannon, congratulations.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Good to see
Good work.
everybody.
Good work, Shannon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Joel. Thanks so much.
Nice work, Shannon. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay in touch.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.